Welcome to What's Working, everyone. I'm Cam Marston. Thank you very much for joining us. We've had a number of wonderful shows recently, and we are not going to break that streak. Sitting in front of me right now is author Gonzalez. He's both an old friend and a new, colleague as well, because I'm working with him. He's the managing director of Cyprus Consulting Group, and he is the area franchisee for Sandler Training. I've heard of Sandler Training over the years. Now I am a client of authors and am learning a lot along the way, helping me already in a very short amount of time, and it's wonderful content for our show. Author, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Cam, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
I know in order for you to take the role that you're in right now, you had to take a significant career pivot. Something must have drawn you into this role or this opportunity with Sandler. Tell me about it. Tell me about you, your background a little bit that will help the audience, and why you've chosen to do this.
Yeah, well, I think you're being very kind to tell me that I took a career pivot. I have spent my entire career in outside sales and sales management. And, as any entrepreneur will tell you, it's never easy to jump out of your comfort zone and go out on your own, which is what I've done. So I think to tell my story, I've got to kind of put you in the Wayback Machine a little bit.
Love the Wayback Machines.
Yeah, and tell you kind of where my career started. I graduated from Auburn University in 2000 and was quickly faced with a big adult decision of whether I wanted to stay in Mobile or move away and go to work. And fortunately for me, I had options. I was given a job offer to either stay in Mobile and sell billboard advertising or move to Columbia, South Carolina and take a very similar job up there. And so as much as I love Mobile, I kind of felt like I needed to step out of my comfort zone at a very young age. And so I packed all of my limited worldly belongings in a U-Haul truck and put my car on a trailer and drove to South Carolina with no place to live and no friends, only the promise of employment. And so that was probably the first time in my career that I really stepped out of my comfort zone. And that's probably going to be a common theme that I talk about on the podcast today. So
I think that's great. And I know I can certainly relate to that. My first job was in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I knew no one, and the only thing I was getting there was employment.
Yeah.
I came away from there with the seeds of a career and a spouse.
Funny you say that.
Yeah.
I found one of those in South Carolina myself.
No kidding. Mine's a North Carolina native. That's interesting. So you went out on a limb, got into Columbia, didn't know what was going to happen, and what was the next chapter?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I realized is that Mike Tyson is right. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
I love that. Yeah.
And I quickly realized that sales is tough. You know, there are a lot of hardworking people in this world, but very rarely do you meet people who face challenges, unique challenges, like people in outside sales or anyone who has any, capacity of selling in their job description.
Yeah.
Any sort of business development type role. And so, I remember it like it was yesterday. My manager at the time came into my tiny cubicle, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here. He dropped the phone book on my desk.
Oh, gosh.
And said, "Good luck, buddy."
This is a book full of leads.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's a lead, right? But I quickly figured out that sales is incredibly tough, both, from the standpoint of the psychology of selling. Can you get past the daily frustrations that come with a sales job? Can you get up the next day and have a plan and get after it again tomorrow, even though you've been beat up and put through the ringer? So I really struggled, as a young guy, Cam. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember some of the tough lessons that I learned, and I struggled to the point of not being able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that tough for me
So
to wrap my head around selling.
Your first job in a city where you knew no one was
Yeah.
a commission-based sales job.
It sure was.
Oh, man.
Well, and I always thought that, hey, I can sell. You know, I can remember one of my best friend's mothers telling me as a young guy, Arthur, you're going to be a great salesman one day because you can talk me into anything.
Or I hear this all the time. Cam, you can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You can be a salesperson. You can talk to anybody. I wish it was as easy as that.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that really got me. I went into this sales job with the preconceived notion that because I'm a nice guy and people like talking to me and I make relationships easily, that I could sell. And nothing can be further from the truth.
It's disappointing, but true. It's a remarkable talent that you have, and I think I share it with you, an ability to connect with people.
Sure.
But it doesn't generate business. It generates lovely conversations. And I remember when I was in selling with Nestle, we would report in to the general manager or the area manager, Cam, how are sales going? Well, we didn't sell anything, but boy, we've enhanced some relationships this week. He would look at me and go, that's not what I need. I need the sales thing. And I can relate to what you're talking about there.
Well, yeah, a lot of people love having quality conversations, and you can put a quality conversation on your whiteboard in your office and hope that will one day turn into a check,
a dollar sign.
But the hard truth is that you cannot cash a quality conversation.
Right.
You can't take that to the bank. And that was one of the early lessons I learned once I got past hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you about hitting rock bottom in my sales career because it was a moment of clarity for me. Go back to South Carolina. I'm still there, still trying to figure it out. I'm working in a bar at night so that I can pay my rent because I certainly wasn't selling any billboards. And I remember meeting with a guy that owned a carpet store in South Carolina. And he acted excited about the idea of having a billboard. Who doesn't want to see their name in lights, right? And he said, Arthur, why don't you put together a proposal for me and bring it back to me and we'll talk about this. And boy, young 20-some-odd-year-old Arthur got excited. I rushed back to the office, spent 3 hours putting together a proposal, poring over the numbers, making sure all my I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And on my way back to his office the following day, I realized that I had been down this path before.
Mm.
And I figured out when I pulled into his parking lot that I had a ton of head trash and a ton of call reluctance because when I put my hand on the handle of my driver's side door to get out of the car to go deliver said proposal, I could not pull the handle, Cam.
You couldn't get yourself out of the car.
I couldn't.
You had developed, you've done the work.
Yes.
Hours.
Yes.
Driven to the destination, but couldn't get out of the car?
I wimped out because I was so afraid that I was going to hear the same, I'll think it over, the same, I need to talk to my partner about this, the same smokescreen that prospects love to tell you after you give away all your information.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't hear that again.
Yeah.
And so I literally never walked in the door. I drove off, never delivered the proposal, never even set foot back in the guy's office. And that's when I hit rock bottom.
When did you know there was a way out? When I can imagine at some point you said, well, I'm not meant for sales. I'm going to go into something else.
Yeah.
But obviously you didn't. At some point you said, there's something I don't know.
Yeah, there was a moment, fortunately for me, I feel like I dumbed into the solution. I got lucky is really what happened. My boss at the time decided that he wanted to put our sales team at the billboard company through some sales training. And we enrolled. We were told to show up at this guy's office and be a part of these classes. And I really didn't know what to expect when I walked in the door. But I was enrolled in a Sandler Training class with a local trainer, a local Sandler franchisee in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'll never forget it. The first day that I walked in the door of this place, our trainer, a gentleman named Bill McCrary, gave us some very simple, straightforward rules. He called them the Sandler rules. And there were a few that really stuck out to me. And I'll tell you a little bit about them. The first one was that prospects don't always tell you the truth. They actually lie to you. And Bill, in his very charming Southern way, told us that most people feel like salespeople are the only people you can lie to, and you still get to go to heaven. And that hit me hard because I'm a trusting person by nature, Cam, and for somebody to tell me that all these folks that I've been dealing with and proposing billboard campaigns to were lying to me was frankly kind of shocking.
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate. Yes.
So the next rule was that there are no bad prospects, only bad salespeople.
Interesting. That's a tough one.
It is. I think he may have been calling me out personally in front of the class because, if you think about all the people we talk to in a sales job, not everybody's going to be a perfect fit for what you have to offer. Maybe they don't have a problem you can fix. Maybe they have things going on in their world that don't give them the time or the resources to address an issue. Maybe they don't think it's that big of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I figured out is that if you are a bad salesperson, okay, you identify those prospects who should probably be disqualified, and you hang on to them, and you hope that one day something changes, and you spend a lot of time chasing them.
Yeah.
And you spend a ton of time drinking what I call the hopium.
Hopium. I've quoted you about 50 times since hearing that first time.
Yeah. So you're drinking the hopium thinking that one day, out of the goodness of their heart, these people are going to decide to spend money on whatever it is that you're selling. And in that time, boy, you waste a lot of energy and a lot of your own valuable resources, which is your time, chasing those prospects that are probably never going to do business with you.
Yeah. So there are no bad prospects, only bad salespeople. And what he meant by that was you're not qualifying well.
Well, that and it's the salesperson's job. It is a professional salesperson's job to lead a prospect through the selling process.
Mm-hmm.
If we allow a prospect to lead us through a selling process, I'm going to give you one good guess as to where that's going to end up.
When you're on their train, they're in control.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that rarely ever ends well for the salesperson.
No, you're right. You're right.
One more rule, and then we can shift gears a little bit. But I love this rule. If you don't go into a sales call with a plan, you will default to the prospect's plan or the buyer's plan.
Yeah.
And like I just mentioned, that rarely ends well for the salesperson.
Yeah. You're reminding me back in my early days of selling with Nestle. My job was to wake up every day, and you and I may have talked about this in airports or somewhere when you and I bumped into each other over the years. Wake up, prepare the hot food samples on my stove in my small apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina, put them in a pitch bag, in thermoses in a pitch bag, put the pitch bag in the car and head east out of Raleigh. My territory was Raleigh, North Carolina, and everything to the coast, where, if you're familiar with that part of our country, they eat barbecue 3 meals a day and drink tea 3 meals a day.
Vinegar-based barbecue.
That's right.
Let's make sure we set the record straight on that.
And Nestle was based in, at that time, California, and they kept coming out with California type of foods. We've got this very elaborate Szechuan sauce and this lemon lime sauce, Cam, and you only have to sell 50,000 million cases of it in order to stay employed.
That's all?
That's all. And that's what it felt like. So my instruction early on, and I'm getting off topic here, but I was to drive to the back of the restaurant, look for the handle around the restaurant handle that goes into the back of the restaurant that had the most grease on the door, that it was kind of shiny. That's where my target was. And I would open that door and walk into the back of the restaurant and sell lemon lime sauce. And they're like, man, I don't know where you think you are. This is barbecue all the time, every day around here.
We don't eat lemon lime ribs around here.
That's right. We'll take your Nestea. We like your Nestea.
Yeah.
But we don't want your lemon lime stuff. And those were difficult times. But you got used to hearing no and moving on. And I think a lot I could have learned from you or from Sandler at that time on how to manage this process better. For me, it was just how many restaurants can I go to in a day?
Sure.
And try to find somebody that would buy lemon lime sauce. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that if you didn't have a very good process, you probably fell victim to what Sandler calls the buyer-seller dance.
Oh, there were military bases that I knew if they ever bought anything, it would be truckloads.
Sure.
And they led me through their dance for a long time. What is the buyer-seller dance?
Yeah, well, it is Sandler's description of how most salespeople who don't have a very good plan for how they sell interact with a buyer who has a very, very clear path to what they want to accomplish in an interaction with a salesperson. And before I go into that, I do want to mention that there's a very good reason why the buyer has a very clear idea of how they want to deal with a salesperson. And that is because in the past, most salespeople are trained to sell a certain way. And it's hard charging. It's close. If you've ever seen Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Alec Baldwin throws stuff and breaks the chalkboard because he's in a room of guys who don't close.
Right.
And frankly, that is there's some truth to it. And so you've heard the term, the ABCs of selling, always be closing.
Right.
Man, over time, people have developed a sixth sense for seeing that coming.
Mm-hmm.
And when they hear the word or the name salesperson, why don't you meet with one of our salespeople? They immediately put their defenses up. They immediately think, okay, how do I get the information, the pricing, the details I need from this guy or this gal without committing to anything? And then how do I get them out of my office quickly and never commit to anything they're asking me to do?
And that's the dance.
Well, that is the dance. I mean, your prospect or your buyer may express some interest. They may say, hey, yeah, I'll meet with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as a traditional seller, you go in there and you conduct some sort of a needs analysis. You try to qualify them in some way, maybe ask them some questions about, hey, who's your current vendor? What kind of issues are you dealing with them? Or what kind of pricing do you get for those units? You conduct some sort of analysis of the current status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And then inevitably that buyer will give some signs of being motivated to buy. They act excited. Maybe they give you some body language that makes you think, oh yeah, I've got a hot one.
Right.
Okay. And they then ask you for some proposal information. Hey, why don't you put together some information for me? Bring it by the office. Leave it with my secretary.
Yeah.
Okay. And so their goal is to obtain some information.
Yeah.
And what do buyers love to do with pricing? They love to shop you.
To share it, shop it.
How about I take it to my current vendor or the person I'm working with now, and and saying, hey, Cam, this guy Arthur's got you beat by 10%.
Yeah.
What can you do for me? Okay, so it's a leverage point for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a seller, we love to deliver that information. We're very proud of all the information that we have because we are the most knowledgeable person when it comes to widgets and the other things that we sell. So we're going to go in and we're going to expand on our unlimited knowledge about our products. And then we're going to attempt to close.
Yeah.
We're going to ask for the business because, hey, this is what you asked for. Here it is. I've delivered it to you. Will you give me the business?
Right.
And then that buyer is programmed to avoid commitment.
Yeah.
They're going to come up with some reason they can't commit to what you're asking for today. That leads to maybe some objection handling, and then the chase begins.
Yeah.
You know, that buyer will disappear. They will hide from you. If they see you pull into the parking lot, they will close the door and tell their secretary or their gatekeeper, do not let that guy past you.
Yeah.
And then we follow up endlessly. We text, we email, we leave voicemail, and then finally we give up.
Yeah.
We throw up our hands and wonder what the heck happened.
Right. And I laugh at this because this is so familiar. This was familiar back to me when I was with Nestle, but it's also familiar to me now as much as the different things that I do. There's no question that the bottom line is what I'm in is sales.
Yeah.
I'm in sales.
I would agree with that.
This happens to me too frequently. And you've heard me complain about this and you just smile and nod going, you're not the only one, Cam.
Well, you're not.
This is not unusual what you're going through. You have put yourself in the absolute vulnerable position to be manipulated by your potential, what you think are your prospects.
Sure.
And those prospects, maybe they had some interest in what you offered, but I'm chasing them like I feel like I should. And it's just taken forever.
Well, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting and it's depressing.
And it's stressful.
And it's stressful. And one of the things that you taught me early on is hey, man, and this is my words, not yours, wipe your hands of these people and move on. It's not personal. You're doing fine. You need to use your time more wisely and just drop these people. And I tell you, that has been absolutely one of the most day-changing things that you've ever taught me in our short time together going through Sandler is the freedom of saying, I'm done with these people.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful.
Well, it is. And that was one of the first things that I learned early in my Sandler training was that I don't have to fall in love with prospects.
Yeah.
That they have a clear agenda. If they're willing to spend some time with me, most of the time they want information. Okay. And it's my job as a salesperson to fully and adequately qualify them before I consider them a true prospect.
Yeah.
Until they've earned the right by answering questions and letting me know why they're so interested in sitting down with me, until they've earned the right for me to give them pricing and give them information about how I might be able to fix their problem. First, they're going to have to share with me a little bit.
Yeah.
And that process is the qualification process.
Yeah.
And if you've ever sat down with someone that you're considering a prospect and you're getting pushback, or maybe you sense a little bit of insincerity in their answers, maybe they're hiding something a little bit, that should be a cue to you that maybe they're not a good fit.
Yeah.
And it's okay to look at them and say, Cam, I get the sense, and it may not be the case with you, but when someone is a little bit hesitant to share what's really happening in their business, I get the feeling that we're not going to be a good fit to work together.
Yeah.
And wow, talk about shocking someone that you're meeting with.
It's very powerful on both sides.
Well, it is. And it creates what Sandler calls equal business stature.
Interesting. Go into that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when most salespeople walk into the room for a meeting, there is inevitably a sense of, and I hate to even use this word, but I will, almost a role of servitude.
I was going to say subservient.
Yeah, if I'm
We're the
sitting
beggar.
down with the general manager, the vice president, someone in the C-suite of a company, the CEO, I mean, those guys are used to being catered to.
Right.
So if you've ever walked into a meeting and one of these folks has looked at you and said, "Well, what do you got for me today?"
Yeah.
Go ahead with your presentation. That is their normal MO.
Yeah.
Because most salespeople immediately pull up the PowerPoint presentation and start spewing information about features, benefits, guarantees, why we're better than our competition. And Sandler just teaches a completely different way and a completely different method of selling.
I continue to have that problem of, let me tell you everything I know about the subject you're asking about. And
Sure.
I absolutely, and it's almost, it's a need to prove to them that I have the expertise that they need.
Sure.
And thinking that leads to the sale.
Sure.
I look at all the work I've done, the books that I've written, the presentations that I've given, and it all includes the following stuff. And I tell them this stuff and realize a little later on, and one of the things that I've learned from you is you don't have to do that. You don't have to prove your expertise that way at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that starts with what Sandler calls a high need for approval.
Yeah.
A lot of salespeople feel like they have to validate their existence. They have to tell people all about the nuances of why their product is the best, the shiniest, the best value, features and benefits. Yeah. And that high need for approval can lead to a lot of problems. It can lead to really wanting to be liked by your prospects and by the people that you do business with. So maybe you're willing to make some concessions that you wouldn't otherwise be willing to make.
So you think this is a psychological profile of the salesperson, is that they have a high need for approval?
No question.
Yeah.
Sales is a psychological dance.
Why does a person with a high need for approval enter into a profession with such high rejection rates?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of people don't realize that they have a high need for approval until they start hearing some very, very hard truths about themselves and how they approach their work and their chosen profession too.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you that I didn't fall asleep at night as a child dreaming of being a salesperson or a sales trainer.
Right.
And most people that enter into the sales profession probably don't dream about it either.
So you started out, let's go back to Colombia. You started out in Colombia with a remarkably high failure rate that you've told me about.
Sure.
It's something that I can very easily relate to in my early days. I was on a salary with Nestle, so I did not have that high commission structure that you did. But at some point, did you drop the high need for approval, or is that still a part of who you are?
I dropped it immediately, Cam.
No kidding.
And I went from working the door at that bar so that I could pay my rent to absolutely crushing my quotas. And for a young guy, making really, really good money in the billboard business and then getting promoted to a management position 2.5 years after I was hired.
Yeah.
So it was literally a complete mind reset for me.
So that's remarkable for me, because that seems like a high need for approval would be a part of your DNA, just like perhaps it's a part of mine. And to eliminate such a core part of your personality immediately is no small task.
Well, I don't think that you can fully ever eliminate who you are at your core. As children, our teachers and our parents rewarded us for quote unquote good behavior.
Right.
You get a gold star if you complete the task. You get a gold star if if you aren't a quitter. You get a gold star if you don't interrupt.
Right.
Okay. And so we are trained as children, really and truly, to be almost someone who isn't assertive, someone who isn't willing to challenge the status quo. And we carry those core beliefs with us into adulthood in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I first started out in sales, I had what I call a very poor money concept. I hated talking to people about money. I dreaded the inevitable, well, how much does that cost, Arthur?
Yeah.
Because, man, I would clam up, the hair on the back of my neck would stand up. I would probably turn red in the face. And it was because I was so worried about breaking that norm, that core belief that I had in my head.
That nice people don't talk about money or something like that.
Yeah. And quitters never win, right? So guess what I did? I chased prospects, or what I thought were prospects. They were only suspects.
Yeah.
I would chase those people for months and months and months and follow up endlessly until finally somebody sat me down and said, hey, man, you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Why don't you go turn over a new rock? There might be a gold nugget under that one.
Right.
And so that was a big, big shift for me.
Yeah.
And while I've never really abandoned those core values and those core beliefs, I still fight them to this day. I've come to the conclusion that if I'm going to go to the bank, if I'm going to be successful in sales, I have to work every day to overcome some of those challenges.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You sound like a person that's in therapy every day. I've got to repeat to myself that I am not here to be liked.
Well, you may find this funny, but I will tell you that to this day, before I walk into an appointment with a prospect, I have to remind myself, whether it's true or not, that I am independently wealthy and I don't need the business.
I think you've told me that once before. That's an extraordinarily powerful thing to say, to set your mind before going in through a door.
Well, it is, but it has to be there.
Yeah.
Because to be a sales professional, a sales consultant, a trusted advisor to your prospects and the people that you do business with, you can't be in it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You simply can't be. If you're in it for yourself, you're in the game for the wrong reason.
Elaborate on that.
Well, so whenever I walk into a meeting, I'm on a fact-finding mission and I'm on a qualification mission. I am trying to diagnose, just like a doctor does, whether or not there's a problem that I can potentially fix.
Mm-hmm.
And if I walk into that meeting with the mindset of, man, I got bills to pay.
Oh, yeah.
I got a tuition check to write. I've got commission breath. I need it. I got to have this sale. I will inevitably walk in there and blow the whole thing up, because the modern buyer can spot that game a mile away. The modern buyer who can literally pick up the computer in their pocket and do product research, they know exactly what they want to know when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
And if you are going to walk in and again, what we call spill your candy in the lobby,
Yeah.
and give them information and just, spill all your knowledge all over the place, they will see that coming from a mile away, and the defenses will go up.
Yeah.
And the traditional buyer-seller dance begins. But there's a better way.
Yeah. Let's go into the better way, because my suspicion is so many people listening to this can relate. I mean, have you ever found anybody that can't relate to this? I'm curious if the people that come to you out of need are ones that have found rock bottom like your story is, or ones that have found difficulty like my background, or everybody can relate.
I think most people probably can. And if you have some selling capacity to your job, whether you are a true business to business salesperson or a business to consumer salesperson, or even you're in the category of what I call a non-selling professional, whether it be an engineer or an attorney or an accountant, someone who doesn't have sales in their job description, but is now being asked to participate in some sort of a business development type role, then you've probably been ghosted a few times.
Yeah.
You've probably looked back on a sales interaction or an interaction with a potential client and scratched your head and wondered what the heck went wrong.
Yeah.
Why am I left holding the bag here? I spent hours chasing this guy and I got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
It's a painful reality.
Yeah. I think there are probably people shaking their heads right now.
Well, maybe so. But there is a better way. And I discovered this better way, fortunately, very early in my sales career. And I've been able to use this Sandler selling method, for over 25 years.
So we go in with the mindset of I'm independently wealthy. So, and I have a conversation coming up later today. I will go into that conversation saying I'm independently wealthy. I don't need this work, which is a powerful way to go through it. And I will, this upcoming conversation is in this person's office. I love neutral ground, but it's in his office. Take me through, prescribe to me as best as you can without knowing many of the details, how to go about this. I mean, why don't you spill your candy in my lobby right now?
Okay. Well, I will start with this. I'll start with another Sandler rule. And that Sandler rule is you can never sell anything. It's our job as salespeople to help our prospects understand and find that they have a problem that's worth fixing and addressing.
Okay.
And the only way we do that is with a very systematic process. And so the Sandler methodology is very structured. Back when I went through Sandler Training 25 years ago with Bill McCrary and his co-trainer, my buddy Walker McKay, the Sandler method was in the form of a submarine. And that sounds so odd, but if you've ever seen one of the old World War II movies where, the submarine captain and his crew are submerged underwater and they're attacking the enemy, and maybe they take a depth charge to a certain compartment of the submarine, and they close off that door with the big wheel so that water doesn't flood the rest of the submarine. The Sandler concept was the same, because in theory you can't go from the bow of the submarine to the stern of the submarine without going through each individual compartment and sealing it off.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So the first step in the process is what we call bonding and rapport. In order to be a trusted advisor, you have to have some level of trust. Okay. The people you meet with have to be able to look at you and say, all right, this guy seems trustworthy enough. And he's obviously interested in my business, so I'll give him some time. And so you sit down with that person and you develop some level of rapport. Whether they've got, a picture of their family on their desk or what have you, maybe some brief small talk to get to know them on a personal level is a good thing. But more importantly, I would say, maybe to get to know their role in their business would be even more powerful. Mm-hmm. Show them you're interested in them. The next step is really one of the things that I discovered early on at Sandler that truly changed my life, and that is what we call the upfront contract. The upfront contract is nothing more than an agreement between two people for how an interaction or a meeting is going to go.
Yeah.
And man, it is really, really powerful because it's got four very critical components. What's the purpose of the meeting? What are we going to talk about today? Why are you here?
Right.
Or why did you invite me in? The time that we're going to spend. Hey, I've got an hour to spend with you today. I put an hour on the calendar. Does that still work for you?
Yeah.
Because if somebody's going to cut the meeting short on you, when do you want to know that?
Yeah. ASAP.
How about before you even start?
Right.
The next is the agenda. Hey, Cam, listen, I appreciate you inviting me in today. Usually when I meet with somebody for the first time, I'm on a fact-finding mission. I want to learn as much about your business as I possibly can, and learn about some of the problems that you're dealing with. Why you invited me in today, what you were hoping I could maybe fix for you.
Yeah.
Now, in this hour we're going to spend together, I assume you're probably going to be trying to figure out if I'm the right guy to help you. And I'm sure you're going to have questions for me, but for the sake of our agenda, what are the top 2 or 3 things you're hoping to learn in this hour that at the end of our time will make you feel like it was time well spent?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your agenda items too. And then, of course, the most important component of the upfront contract, in my opinion, is the outcome. What happens next?
Yeah.
Because Sandler taught me very early on that you should never end a meeting without some very clear next steps. Because gosh, isn't that what every prospect wants to do? They want to get the info, they want to get the pricing, and then hide from you. Peace out.
Right.
Good luck getting me on the phone again.
Right.
Okay, so we want to say something along the lines of, hey, Cam, listen, I meet with a lot of business owners in your industry. Some I'm a good fit to work with, some I'm not. And I just want you to know up front that if we figure out at any point in time, I'm not the guy to help you, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You can tell me no, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. We can part ways as friends, and I'll move on.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you feel like this conversation's got legs and you feel like I might be a guy that can bring value to your business and maybe I can help you fix problem A, B, and C, are you comfortable talking about what happens next in the last 5 or 10 minutes of our meeting?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's an incredibly powerful tool.
That's right out of the gate. That's the first conversation you have with this prospect.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because let's go back to what we talked about earlier. I talked about how many prospects hear the word salesperson or they agree to take a meeting with a salesperson, and boy, the defenses go up real quick.
Have you ever had a problem? Have you ever had anyone that objected to any part of that agenda?
Never.
I can't.
And if they do, guess what? They're not a serious prospect.
Then it's over.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah. So I can't imagine why anyone would. I can't imagine that there would be a different agenda from the prospect than the one you're bringing.
Well, generally speaking, they will have some agenda items they're interested in that maybe I hadn't considered.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when do I want to know that?
ASAP.
Right now.
Right.
Before we even get started.
Yeah.
Because if I'm really in it to solve their problems, boy, don't you know that I'm going to be focused on what matters to them at some point in this conversation.
Right. Right.
So the other thing that the upfront contract does is it tends to lower those defenses a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If someone sits down with a salesperson and they've built that wall mentally, I'm not going to give this guy anything because he's trying to sell me something. He wants my money. Look at him. He's got the commission breath.
Yeah.
I can see it from a mile away. He really needs this sale.
Right.
Okay. So if that is the perception of our prospect, letting them know up front that it's okay to tell me no.
Yeah.
We can part ways as friends and I won't bug you anymore. Boy, that really kind of changes the paradigm of the conversation right there.
Yeah. I've heard something similar. I remember a guy who used to manage a Hyatt hotel when I lived in Charlotte, and he was given a presentation one afternoon or morning or something to a group of us. And he said one of the things that he has learned in his sales as he tries to sell Hyatt's banquet facilities is the very few words that change the nature of the conversation, and they are this: we've never met. And he uses those in his phone calls and his voicemails. Very few phone calls and voicemails today like there used to be in the past. But he would leave a message on a corporate planner's voicemail and say, hey, this is, I'll make up a name, this is Greg. I'm with the Hyatt. We've never met, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we do. And those words, he said, would lower the defenses of the person to whom he was calling.
Yeah.
And I've adopted that when needed.
I used something similar this morning on a cold call.
And it's just really, I find it lowers defenses. We've never met. I'm not trying to pull anything over on you. I'm claiming that I don't know you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you may not want to know me, but I'm gonna say it up front and quickly.
Yeah, I got a VP of sales on the phone this morning before I came to sit down with you, and that was a very similar approach that I used. And I said, "Hey, man, we've never met. You don't know me. Wondering if I could take 30 seconds of your time to tell you what I do. If it's not something you're interested in, that's okay. You can tell me, and we can end this conversation. But on the other hand, if your team is dealing with problem A, B, or C, maybe you'd be willing to have a 15, 20-minute conversation with me.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd be willing to sit down and meet with me."
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up talking for a few minutes. I disqualified him, and we moved on. But before I left, I said, "Hey, listen, would it be okay if I called you a year from now just to see if anything changed?" And he said, "Yes, please do."
Wow.
So you never know. Something may change, but I'm not going to spend another minute of my time until he pops back up in my calendar in April of 2027, and I give him a quick call again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's solid stuff.
Well, it can be. It can be freeing.
Yeah.
Like you said. And so, like I said, if you're willing to follow a system and you're willing to have a plan going into these conversations, you will not default to your prospect system of basically trying to get free consulting and free information and then ghosting you.
Yeah.
Now, the next step after your upfront contract is what we call the pain step. And the pain step is pretty straightforward. We're looking to figure out what need, what problem, what issue our prospect is facing that is so challenging or so troublesome or so terrible that they're willing to upset their status quo and invest time and money to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no easy feat.
That is no easy feat because most people think they largely have it figured out, I'm guessing.
Many times they do. I think that if someone is taking the time to meet with a salesperson, generally they might have something going on that they think, hey, maybe this guy can help me out. But they generally don't know how troublesome a pain point is. And it's our job as sales professionals, as trusted advisors, as consultants, to help them define that problem, how it's impacting them financially, how it's impacting their workflow in their business, how it's impacting them on a personal level if they are held accountable for metrics that are directly attributed to that problem.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what the pain step does. Sandler says that without pain, there is no sale.
Yeah.
So think about that. If a prospect that you're talking to doesn't have any problems, if they think everything's fantastic, maybe their current vendor, service provider, whoever they're buying product from, maybe the person you're trying to displace, if they're totally happy with the way things are going, guess what? Probably not going to sell them anything.
And you quickly disqualify them.
And you quickly disqualify them and you move on.
You could move on and you say, may I call you in a year? Maybe you'll be in pain.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Not using those words, but maybe you'll be in pain.
Yeah, maybe something's changed.
Yeah, maybe something's changed. Is it your job to prepare for the sales call to project what their pain may be? Or are you in that sales call to uncover the pain?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think that pre-call planning is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of salespeople that walk into meetings and they basically wing it.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 20 years and man, I'm sure this guy's probably similar to the last three, business owners that fit into this category. He's probably experiencing some of the same difficulties as they do. Maybe they assume some things about that business owner and what they're trying to accomplish, and they wing it. That's a quick way to step on a landmine in a sales call.
Yeah.
Because if you don't at least have an idea of maybe some of the questions that you want to ask that person, maybe some of the issues that you've been able to fix for people in a similar business to them, you are indeed winging it.
Yeah.
And that's no way to go into a meeting. So even if your preparation is simple, even if you jot down 5 really good intuitive questions that you want to ask that person, that's a pretty good start.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be better if you did a little bit of research on their company? Maybe you did a little research on who their ideal prospect might be. And maybe you can ask some questions that lead them to reveal some of those pain points.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's got to be all about them, and you've got to reveal that pain with excellent questions.
Yeah. And let's say, all right, let's continue this path. We're kind of going through a narrative here. You ask the questions, you discuss the pain, you become clear on what it is. They confess to you what the pain may be.
Sure.
I can't imagine any part of it. And if they say to you at that point, all right, let's close the deal, which of course never happens. No one ever wants to do that. That just never seems to happen. You then say, can I come back to you with the proposal? Do you even do a proposal?
I don't do proposals very often, Cam. I avoid them like the plague.
So, all right, take me, let's go back into the narrative. You're discussing the pain.
Well, let's remember what pain is.
Okay.
Okay. Pain is a compelling emotional reason to do something different. And there's a difference between real pain, real personal pain that someone is dealing with, and what I call pain indicators or surface level pain. If you sell gutters, okay, for someone's house, roofing gutters, or let's say you sell a new roof, you sell the whole turnkey package. You can walk up to someone after a hurricane's blown through town and there could be a tree sticking out of their roof, and they're going to have some pretty deep pain that's very, very obvious. You're probably not going to have to ask many questions to figure out that pain is compelling and an emotional reason to fix the problem.
Yeah.
But it's very rare that a pain point is that readily available and that obvious for someone. So you've got to be willing to ask questions about, hey, Cam, could you tell me the top, 2 or 3 issues that you were hoping that I could maybe fix for you today? Mm-hmm. Or you mentioned this on the phone when we talked. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And that is a good entry-level pain question. But until you have asked 4 or 5 additional questions about that problem, you haven't revealed an emotional or compelling reason for someone to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that can take some time. And you have to be incredibly intentional about how you ask those questions. You have to be very good at active listening.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't turn your cell phone off before you walk into a meeting and it's buzzing in your pocket and you're distracted, maybe you ought to turn that thing off or leave it in the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that you can be an active listener, because your next question should always be prompted by that prospect's answer.
So the prospect's question prompts your next question.
Of course.
Which brings an answer from them, which prompts that question after that. You're building.
Sure.
And at the same time, you're watching your watch, your clock, to make sure we don't hit that 1 hour timeline.
That's right.
And you need to wrap up with next steps at some point. So you're never solving their problem in this first meeting. You're simply understanding it.
That's right. Think of a doctor that walks into a patient room.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you go see the doctor because you're having some knee pain. Okay. That doctor is probably not going to put you up on the exam table, ask you a couple of questions, and then recommend surgery.
No, you're right.
Okay. So that doctor has to fully diagnose the problem before he or she can say, Cam, I recommend knee surgery.
Right.
And salespeople have to be excellent at diagnosing problems, and then more importantly, quantifying the impact of those problems.
That's an area we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah. So if you're a business owner and you're dealing with an efficiency issue, or you're dealing with a faulty product from a supplier, maybe you haven't taken the time to quantify how that is affecting your P&L statement.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't taken the time to quantify how that's affecting your team morale. I mean, there are lots of ways that a problem can impact a business owner.
Yeah.
And it's our job as salespeople to figure out what that is and diagnose that so that maybe, just maybe, we have a solution to that problem.
Give me an example of a question that will help the business owner understand the pain from those points of view, whether monetarily, emotionally, team-oriented. Give me what does that sound like?
Well, what if we just role play the pain funnel? What if we just role play a pain sequence?
Okay.
Cam, in your business, you mentioned on the phone that sometimes you struggle because the widgets that you order for your product assembly, they sometimes come in damaged or late. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
They appear to be rushed, put into the boxes haphazardly. Takes us too long to unpack them. And then I also think that due to the rushing, and we're making this up, due to the rushing, it appears that they're damaged in the production. So it slows us down, and it frankly really irritates my team because they're on time commitments to get these through their end of the process. Yeah.
So when you say it irritates your team, tell me a little bit more about that. Give me an example of what that looks like.
They'll pick up the phone or they'll text me in the middle of the production and say, hey, these things were packaged incorrectly again. And about 20% of them are damaged. And they are interrupting my day to complain to me about this vendor.
Wow. So how long have you guys been dealing with this issue?
A couple of years. It seems to have gotten worse as new ownership has taken over at this vendor.
Surely not that long. A couple of years?
It's been, we just kind of have made do.
Well, what have you done to try to solve the problem? I mean, surely you've tried to fix it, right?
We've called them. We've mentioned it. We've set them aside. We've taken pictures of them. We've done what we can to bring their attention to it, hoping they'll take responsibility for this.
Okay, you're 2 years in. Have they made any changes for you?
They're really good at apologizing.
What do you think that's cost you?
I almost hate placing the order with them, but they're familiar. They take us bird hunting every year. They send us sandwiches when things go bad. They're familiar and they're good at apologizing, and every now and then they'll send the line sandwiches, and we can look away after that happens.
Okay. Well, Cam, here's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that this is impacting you and has for a long time, but what I'm interested in is the ripple effect of this problem. How is this impacting your customers on the back end? Have you ever considered how this problem maybe manifests itself in an issue for your end users?
Infrequently, we're caused to delay their orders, to delay shipment to them.
Infrequently?
Yeah.
How often is infrequently?
Once every 3-4 weeks.
Okay, well, that's not too bad, right?
No.
It's not? Okay.
We'd prefer not to have it, but no, it's not too bad.
Okay. So you see where I'm going here.
Yeah.
Out of the role play.
Out of the role. And scene.
Okay. Right. So you saw me. I bet you I asked you, I lost count. I bet you I asked you about 8 questions.
Yes.
I was in a meeting recently with a prospect. It was me and a decent sized group of folks, probably 6 of us sitting around the table. And man, I bet you I asked them at least 50 questions.
Yeah.
And at one point, I looked across the table at these folks and I said, guys, I have a question for you. How long have we been talking about this problem? And they all kind of looked at each other and they kind of scratched their head. And I said, could you give me a ballpark guess on how many questions I've asked you about this problem? And of course, I was talking to them about sales training, and they were interested in how I could help their team, quote unquote, sell better.
Yeah.
Okay. Or fix the problems that they were having. And I think the light bulb came on that they are walking into their meetings with their agenda at the top of the list. They're not exploring what's important to their potential customers.
Right.
And so that right there was a big learning moment for them.
Yeah.
And that is really what pain is all about.
Digging deep.
Digging in, man.
Lots of angles of the same. Once you've identified the pain, let's look at it. It is your job as the salesperson to ask questions to get them to look at it from many different angles.
No doubt. And then, of course, once you have fully discussed that pain point, okay, then you ask a very critical question. Is this problem something that you have ever considered investing time or money to fix?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then maybe we didn't either go through the pain step thoroughly enough, or maybe the pain just doesn't exist to the level that we can really help them
Right.
with it, right?
Yeah.
That's another little cue that maybe I'm not going to be a good fit to help this prospect.
What is your experience of going through these conversations back when you were in your billboard sales, and I know you were in sales after that as well,
Sure.
and eliminating disqualifying the prospect, even after a very fruitful and lengthy question process,
Sure.
and having them call back down the road? Like, you have opened a door that in that meeting they didn't think they needed to walk through, but somehow you got into their subconscious, and later they called and said, Arthur, let's have that conversation again.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly happens. I can remember years ago, a lady that I had proposed a billboard campaign to. Actually, she would not return my calls, even though we definitely found some pain. I could definitely help her. She wasn't very happy with her current marketing plan. There were lots of neon flashing signs going off that, hey, this probably makes sense for you. But she avoided me for a long time. And so one of my jobs as someone who should be managing my sales pipeline effectively, I let her know I was moving on.
You closed the file.
I did. I sent her an email and I said, hey, listen, based on our previous conversation about pain A, B, and C, kind of felt like I was a good fit to work with you, maybe help you solve those problems. And I even gave you pricing and a proposal, but I haven't heard back from you, despite my repeated attempts to contact you. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to go ahead and close your file. If something changes, feel free to call.
Yeah.
And that didn't really land until a couple of weeks later. And she called me out of the blue and said, hey, don't close my file. I've thought about this and you were right. I think this is going to help. And anecdotally, one of the guys I'm training right now reached out to me last week and he sent a similar email to a guy that he sent a proposal to a year ago.
Yeah.
And man, there was something about that email letting that prospect know, hey, I am moving on from you.
You're dead to me. I'm moving on.
Well, we don't want to say you're dead to me, but maybe something a little softer would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to stay professional, right?
Yeah.
But letting them know, hey, I'm moving on. Just that little message will accomplish one of two things. In both scenarios, the salesperson wins.
Yeah.
Either you get closure, which is great psychologically. You can move on. You can go spend your valuable time elsewhere, calling on other prospects, trying to find new business elsewhere. Or you actually get a response and that person hits you back and says, no, 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 please, no, don't leave me.
Yeah.
I do need your help. and so this guy got an email. He sent me the email chain, and it was hilarious. The guy emailed him back and said, no, 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 man, don't close my file. He actually used the language. And of course, he put a meeting on the books immediately, and he'll probably go in there and win that business. But he at least got engagement from a prospect that he probably considered long gone.
I told you this when you and I spoke last week, or maybe it was earlier this week. Last week. Anyway, I sent that email, and I had such a freeing email to a prospect that has kind of dragged me on. Maybe they weren't telling me the truth. I don't know. But I'm closing the file. And within 2 or 3 days, I got another lead from the same industry. And that was not as a result of the close the file email, but somehow the universe smiled on me and said, now that you've finally done that, I'm going to send you something that has more opportunity. And, I burned a candle and lit all this thing and did a voodoo dance and thanking all the gods of sales gods that this happened. But there was something strong that happened as a result of that.
Yeah. I've always been a believer that the salespeople that have a good plan every day, they are rewarded. Mm-hmm. The sales gods smile upon them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your phone rings, or maybe you ask for a referral.
Yeah.
Hey Cam, it sounds like things are going really well with the project that we just launched. I'm really excited to be doing business with you. Hey, listen, if you could think of a couple of people that would enjoy the same level of service that I've given you, mm-hmm. would you be willing to share those people with me, or maybe make an introduction? You'd be amazed at how many salespeople never ask for referrals.
Yeah.
And that's something that I teach. That's a key premise of what the whole Sandler method is all about. Money does, in fact, grow on trees, Cam, and it happens to be the referral tree.
So I want to go back to something you said a moment ago. You don't do proposals.
Yeah.
Let's go back into our narrative. So we role-played this thing. You asked a lot of questions of me, and I hypothesized on what an answer may be. But you don't ever present a proposal to the client in the process that we're discussing here.
Well, when I think of a proposal, I think of a very formal package, something that I've labored over for hours.
Yeah.
There may come a time in the process where we have to talk about budget. Okay. That, of course, is the next step in the Sandler methodology, the investment step. Okay. And you can't avoid that. Even though my mother told me it's rude to talk about money, at some point you've got to say, hey, Cam, that pain point that you talked about, is it something that you've decided to put money into to fix? What about the time that you and your team have to invest in making that that problem go away, or addressing that issue so that things run more efficiently at your shop, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, you've got to talk about the decision-making process. And that decision-making process is pretty simple. Hey, what's your timeline look like to fix the problem? Who all's involved in that decision-making process? Because inevitably, if you've been in sales, you've hit the roadblock of, well, I need to run that by the board, or I need to run that by my boss. He asked me to collect 2 or 3 proposals so that we can figure out which one we like best. Okay? Mm-hmm. You don't ever want to hit that landmine if you can avoid it. When do you want to know that you're not talking to the decision maker?
ASAP.
Right now.
Right.
And then, of course, you get into a solution presentation, which can be, a formal presentation or a conversation about some sort of a proposal or some sort of a, hey, here's your problem, here's my solution, and here's what it's going to cost you. This should fit into the budget that we discussed up front, okay? And so if you want to say I technically don't do proposals, that's probably true. I don't ever reveal my solutions until I have fully qualified my prospects. That's a better way to say it.
I don't fully reveal my solution. Okay. This is back to don't throw up in the lobby.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
spill your candy in the lobby is the way you put it.
Yeah, we don't ever want to throw up in the lobby. That
We
would be
don't want
bad.
to do either
That's
of
a
those.
quick way to get kicked out.
That's right.
But to your point, yes, this is a matter of qualifying prospects so well that closing is more of a formality.
Right.
You know, some people in the sales business, the sales profession, they tend to lead up to the big moment, the big close, and that can be completely nerve-wracking if you've never had to do it before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're leading up to the big ask. Are you ready to sign the contract?
Yeah.
Have I gotten to the point where I can get the guts up to pull the contract out of my briefcase and slide it across the table? Now, of course, it's easy. You email it and you ask for a DocuSign.
Right.
But that still takes some guts, because what if they just ignore it or delete it? You know, I mean, the close, so to speak. People ask me all the time, all right, man, Arthur, I struggle with my close rate. You're not struggling with your close rate. You're qualifying poorly.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Well, let's talk about qualifying poorly. And I'm watching the time here where, as long as you've got more time, let's keep going. Are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. Fees, pricing.
Sure.
So I go in and I'm trying to sell you something, and your budget and what mine costs are way off.
Sure.
Is that do we negotiate? Do you hold firm on your price? What is the psychological of the Sandler process in an environment like that?
Well, first off, you know, a really good disqualifier is if someone doesn't have money to pay for your service.
Sure.
You know, if you have revealed all the pain in the world and they know they need to fix it, but there's no money to pay you, probably not going to happen. Now, the interesting thing about budgets is that a lot of times budgets are completely fictitious. And I say that to mean if a problem is big enough and compelling enough that someone needs to fix or change what they're doing, they will find the money. Mm-hmm. If it hurts bad enough, if they have that emotional, compelling reason to fix the problem, then guess what? They're probably going to find the resources to throw at it.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Sure.
So I think what you were asking me is, if I come to the table with a proposal and it's way off,
yeah,
then we probably haven't spent quite enough time in that investment step that I talked about, the budget step. All right. You know, if I'm talking to a prospect and I've revealed a whole lot of pain, and it doesn't matter what I'm selling, I can go to them and say, hey, Cam, listen, man, I get the feeling this is a problem you want to fix. Oh, heck yeah, it is. Yeah, this is a huge issue for us, Arthur. You know, I've got a tree sticking out of my roof, or whatever the case may be. Have you thought about what it's going to cost you to fix the problem?
Yeah.
Notice that I've shut up after I asked that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask that question again. Let me remember that question.
Have you thought about what it's going to cost you to fix the problem? That silence is very compelling, isn't it?
It's agonizing. Yeah.
Silence is golden. I'm sure you've heard that song before.
Sure.
My dad used to play it on the oldie station back in the day. But silence truly is golden, because when we ask a very compelling question, we have to learn to shut up as salespeople. Do you know that most salespeople can't let more than about half a second go by before they feel the need to interject?
You're talking to that guy. Yeah.
Cam, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
I'm kidding, of course. I was taking you down the pain funnel.
I know. I was feeling it. The pain fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that silence is killer. It's effective, very effective.
It is. And you know, one piece of advice, if you're in sales out there, I'd give you this. Learn to ask very, very compelling questions and give your prospects time to think about their answer. If they are looking up at the ceiling and you can tell the gears are turning, let them think.
Yeah.
Maybe they are quantifying how bad that pain is.
Right.
Maybe they are figuring out, oh my gosh, I got to fix this.
Right.
And if you interrupt them, you just absolutely ruin the moment, and you ruin everything you've built that moment up to. So learn to shut up, guys.
Oh gosh. It's strong content, strong information.
Yeah. So back to your question about budget. If I haven't done enough work on the front end to figure out ballpark where my proposal needs to be, then I'm on chapter 12 and I should be on chapter 4 of the book. I've skipped a step. I haven't closed off that compartment of the submarine well enough, and I got water leaking through, and we're all going down with the ship.
Right.
Deal's dead. Right.
Is this an argument for mentioning fee or price up front earlier in the conversation?
An argument for who?
Let's say I'm trying to figure out how this would work the best in this scenario, but I could go to you and say, listen, this service that that you may be interested in is going to cost X amount of money. Is that within your budget before we proceed any further? Is that a reasonable? You don't like that path?
No, I don't, because what I've done is given away my pricing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I would rather ask is maybe if someone isn't willing to reveal their budget, is that kind of where you were going with that question? I use a technique called bracketing. I'll say, hey, Cam, I've got solutions that might cost $10,000 to $15,000, and I've got solutions that can cost $40,000 to $50,000. Can you give me at least a ballpark? Now this can be off the record here.
Yeah,
won't tell anybody what you tell me here. But can you give me that ballpark so that when I bring in my proposal or I present my solution to you, man, my biggest fear is that I'm going to blow you away with the number.
Right. And this is a non-starter for both of us.
What if you save us both a little trouble here and you give me at least some general idea of what you were thinking it was going to take to fix the issue?
Yeah.
Because if we don't at least have somewhere to go here, boy, you're setting yourself up for crushed hopes and dreams when you drop that big number on them and they weren't ready for that, or it's not in their budget. Yeah. Make sense?
Oh, very much. Very much. And I've run into those problems a number of times. There was a guy recently that wanted me to come give a presentation to his group, and he thought he wanted a really, really thorough presentation, and he wanted me to do all my research and all that kind of stuff, and I was very interested in it, and he thought the exchange would be, I'll buy your lunch. I'm like, man, I'm grateful for that, but I need a little more than that. You've asked for a lot of work.
Sure.
So anyway, all right, what's next, Arthur?
Well, I guess I wanted to answer the age-old question that I get whenever I'm meeting with someone. How do you train?
Let's get into that.
What does this training look like? And so I'll tell you what it's not. It's not a short-term fix. It's not a 2-day boot camp or seminar where you can come in for a couple of days and I can give you a bunch of really hard-hitting truths about sales, and then you leave and you're a rock star. It doesn't work that way. To put it in ways that some people can understand, sales training, I equate it a lot to going to the gym. Sales skills are not something you're born with. You have to exercise those muscles and you have to train in order to be the best version of yourself. So if you go to the gym consistently for a couple of months and then you walk away, how long does it take before you're soft?
Yeah.
How long does it take for you to fall back into some of those bad habits? How long does it take before some of that head trash that we talked about earlier to start creeping in and maybe that high need for approval or your inability to deal with these the negativity of selling and all the no's you're getting starts creeping in and you're not willing to make those prospecting calls anymore. So for me, and for Sandler, sales training is a long-term commitment. It is a generally at least a year-long course that my clients enroll in, and they are ready and willing to embark on this journey because they've got big problems, and they know that they've got to fix it, or their business is in jeopardy, or maybe they are looking at their P&L statement and it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's talk about that pain and let's solve it in a way that we can really, really permanently change your team's behaviors, the things they're doing every day, their actual selling activities, improve their techniques. How do they run a sales meeting? What do their cold calls sound like? When they meet somebody at a cocktail party, do they have a 30-second explanation of what it is that they do?
Yeah.
Are they asking for referrals even when someone tells them no?
Right.
And then do they have the attitude of someone who can take a no, let it roll off their back, and move on to the next one? I mentioned my buddy Walker McKay earlier. Walker, I'm going to give him a shameless plug. He wrote a book called Some Will, Some Won't, So What, Who's Next? You can get it on Amazon. You're welcome, Walker. And Walker does a really great job of kind of tying a ribbon around a lot of the stuff that I've talked about today. And if you think about that title, it's really, there's a lot of truth in that. Some people will want to do business with you because you're fixing a problem for them. They have that pain. Some won't. These are the folks you disqualify for a myriad of reasons. So what? Okay, I'm not going to sweat it if this deal doesn't work out. I'm on to the next one. Who's next?
Yeah.
Right? And so those are words of wisdom to live by every day if you're in sales.
Those are strong words, and I still love the independently wealthy don't need the work. That's an attitude, and I think it changes your body language. It changes your tone of voice.
No question.
It really makes you a more confident person, and it's almost, you're not exactly playing hard to get, but you don't need the business, and there's something valuable in that, hugely valuable.
There's a lot of freedom in it.
That's right.
And that's a wonderful thing for a salesperson.
Is now a good time to say, how do people find you?
Sure.
How do they find you?
Yeah, well, if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, you know that I'm posting a lot of content on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn. Obviously, I can be reached via email, arthur.gonzalez@sandler.com.
Oh, good.
And then if you want to hit me up with a text or a phone call, cell phone's pretty easy too, 803-509-3873.
All this will be in the show notes, folks. If you're listening thinking, I'd like to remember how to get in touch with him, you can find these in the show notes. And I can attest that in the couple of weeks that Arthur's led me through this, I've learned a lot. And I told the group that was collected for the first meeting that I probably would be a much wealthier man. I would be a wealthy man had I learned this a long time ago of all the mistakes that I've made. However, learning it now has made me, learning it now is better than not knowing it at all. And it has already changed the way I approach so much of my sales.
Fantastic, man. Hey, I'll leave you with this. It's never too late to make some big changes in how you approach your career. I just threw a backpack full of C4 explosive into my comfort zone.
That's a good way to say it.
And went out on my own. And I would encourage everybody, if you're out there grinding in a sales job every day and you're beating your head against the wall and you're frustrated, there's a better way.
Yeah.
But it's gonna mean that you step out of your comfort zone and you're willing to accept some pretty cold, hard truths about you as a salesperson and maybe learn a few new tricks, and I can help you with that.
There's no way growth comes without discomfort. That's the truth.
I can agree with that.
Thank you, Arthur. This has been wonderful, and I know there's just probably hours more of this content, and let's put you back on here before too long and take whatever the next chapter may be.
Sounds great, buddy. Thanks for the time.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody.